Most people know of your career as a basketball coach and athletic director at ASU, but you were a lot more than that. You got to coach some other sports and serve on the faculty, and a lot of people may or may not know that about you. So talk about that just a little bit, some of the other roles that you had on campus.
Well, I want to preface anything we say today, Tom, that you're honestly looking at probably the world's luckiest man. I've been so fortunate all my life. I got to work in a profession that I loved, and I've had a marriage that's been just wonderful. I married a woman that's a perfect coach's wife, and soon we'll celebrate our 70th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And it's been the shortest 70 years of my life. But anyway, to get back to what you were asking, when I first came here, I was a fill-in for a guy named Clayton Hopkins, who was a basketball coach and assistant football coach in the fall of 1949. And I got a call from my college coach saying that a friend of his who he went to college with was a football coach out here, a gentleman by the name of Pete Sykes, that his assistant coach was terminal with cancer, and it didn't look like he was going to make it, and he needs somebody to come and help fill in for the rest of the year. And said, do you know anybody? And apparently my coach said, I think I do. And so it started with my coach, and then I got to come out and be interviewed by the Board of Trustees, which were all local men that I got to know personally and up close after I'd been here a few years. One of those gentlemen, incidentally, is the one that Bob Carr that set up the Carr Scholarship. And they were wonderful men, and they offered me a job, not even knowing about it. And it was perfect for me because what happened, there were so many of us came out of the service after World War II and went back to college that there were limited jobs. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of job openings. So when I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I didn't have a job, but I had a wife and a little baby girl and a mother that I was trying to help support too, because my father had passed previously. But I mean, I'm not complaining, it was all going good, but I was in graduate school, and so I withdrew and came out, and I started on the payroll here on December the 1st, 1949. And unfortunately for me and for the Hopkins family, Clayton passed away about a week or 10 days before I got here, so I never got to meet the gentleman. So we start off December the 1st, and I meet the players for the first time, and we have a ball game on December the 3rd. And they don't know me, and I don't know them, and I have no idea about the opposition. And it happened to be a school that's in our conference now, which was a junior college then. It was Odessa College. And we go up there, and the players said, let's start this kid off with a good record. And so they played their hearts out, and we started off with a victory. So we had a good year that year. I don't remember exact record, but we had a winning record, and they just set me on fire, this age group and all. And the school was nice because all of the coaches in those days were members of the faculty. When I say all the coaches, you have to understand the evolution of it, because there were only two of us at that time. Well, as things would happen, after the first month, the head football coach and athletic director took another job. Now, I'd been on the job 1 month, and I'm the Lone Ranger. So what it meant is that we had to do the best we could and get fill-ins with part-time or what have you to help with we didn't have academic physical education programs, and we had physical education programs, just like PE classes.
Right.
And so I tried to juggle those as long as I could, and about the 20th or 22nd or so of January, I'm working out the team, and I hear a voice, legs, and that's what they called me in college. And so I have no idea why. But anyway, he said, what in the world are you doing out here? And I turned around, there was one of my buddies from college named Max Baumgartner. And fortunate for us, but particularly for me, they hired him as our football coach and athletic director. So when basketball season ended, spring training football started, and so I'm helping Max with football. And by the end of the second or third week, he says, would you like to stay? Because my contract ran out after 6 months. And that was okay. I understood that. I mean, it was an opportunity that I felt good about being offered, and I wanted to try it. And the time was important, but not that important. So somewhere I still have that old contract. He said, "Well, I'm going to recommend that you stay with us." And so fate dealt me another good hand. And so I was assistant football coach and head basketball coach, and then I'd work with track in the after basketball and football, kind of commingled at night. I mean, commingled the sports. Well, about 1952 or three, I don't get the dates, may not be exact. We got a third coach, Alan Lawler, and he was a guy that had gone to college with us too, and he was a Southwest Conference sprint champion, and he played football, so it was perfect for us. And things kept getting better, and about that time, the school was growing, and they were getting few more classes for us and everything, and some of the basketball players and some of the football players came to me, and they put a con job on me and said, let's start baseball. Now that was in the 53, 54 time frame, somewhere in there. And Benjamin Kelly was one of the guys that played on that baseball team. Well, also a guy named Norm Cash played on that baseball team, and you know, he had a phenomenal record. Yes, he was American League batting champion. Don't give that credit to the baseball coach at junior college. No, that wasn't anything I taught him. So, but he was one of our good football players. But anyway, the thing that really grabbed me when I first came out here was the culture of West Texas, and the size of the town, and the love that people seemed to show, both on the faculty and in the community, towards what was going on at San Angelo College. And I love that idea. I mean, even though we're busy and all that, that's immaterial. If you're in an environment that you really like, with people you really like, and the type of leadership, both on the academic, administration, and in the coaching side, you can't get it any better than that. How did they get the picture? That's a boom.
Oh, that's the tanker. The
tanker.
Gas tanker.
And he worked up a deal with the boom operator to take a picture of that with that flag. You can see a flag laying across his lap.
I know August Fluke. He was the quarterback for Central.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, when Dan Gandy was, I called games when he was quarterbacking.
Yeah, we've been real close since he was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? That's an old Air Force man.
There you go.
Now, it was hard on my wife because coaches notoriously are gone a lot. And I was fortunate that since I was a pilot in World War II, I wanted to keep my flying up, and I had been flying fighters in Austin while I was still in school. They had a fighter squadron there, and so I was enjoying that. But when I came out here, I tried to commute back, but after about 2 years, it got too hard. So the good people at Goodfellow gave me an assignment out there as a base operations officer, as a reservist. I wasn't active duty, I was on reserve, but I got to fly everything they had, and it was local. But anyway, that was fun. But that's a side effect. The athletic program kept improving, the quality of the players, the conference was strong. When I first came, the defending national champions in basketball was in our conference. It was Tyler Junior College. And over the first 8 years that I was here, our conference won the national championship 4 times.
Wow.
And so it was a strong conference, and that was a help. I like the fact that it was strong, because players that are competitive like to go to an environment where the opposition is going to be really good that you have to raise your game up and you have to play hard to do it. And our guys were so good, and the players were just wonderful in this time frame. And okay, what we're looking at is a picture that was taken of the San Angelo College National Championship basketball team back in 1957. And it's a picture of them then. And I was just trying to allude to Tom a little bit about my philosophy of why these guys were so good. Their record was 31-2, was the fact that they've been champions in life. And that, I think, is a bearing from what they brought to the team back in those days. Now you get a perspective of the size of these guys by me, and I'm a little taller here than I am now because as we get a little older, we settle down a little bit. But anyway, of the group that did it, it's kind of interesting. 1, 2, 3 of them were local boys, and they played a very vital part in it. And you say, well, what's important about that? Because back in those days, probably people thought that West Texas was primarily football, didn't have basketball players, and they validate that they do. But what I really wanted to allude to you about this is how they've all been successful. I just think of how those guys were successful in their lives, and I think that the core values that they brought to our game reflected that they were winners before I ever got them. So the evolution of it was wonderful. The time element was difficult because I was also teaching on the faculty, and some of the courses that I started teaching were academic 3-hour courses where you had classes like that, and it wasn't PE classes, and so you have preparation and tests and stuff like that you have to grade, and counseling and all that, and that's okay. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, if a guy takes a job and then gripes about it, he needs to bail out, and I wasn't even thinking about bailing out.
Well, through your time at ASU, coaching all these different sports, primarily basketball, but also football, track, baseball, do you have one game that really sticks out, your favorite game? And I know, there were championship games and all of that, and maybe it's one of those, maybe not. Do you have a favorite game?
Well, it's hard for me to prioritize and put just one game in I think the difference in junior college and the senior college provided different exciting games that the players were able to win, that the expectation wasn't that way. I think the national championship game was really special when our guys won the nationals in '57, and it was an unusual thing because on the semifinal game, we played a team that was like a 12-point favorite to win over us. And coaches use numbers a lot, but favorite numbers can be used both for and against you. And so our guys rose to the occasion, and that was the widest victory we had, was in the semifinals. And I thought that was probably one of the real special games. But then when we got to the finals and the guys won it, just the joy and feeling of accomplishment that those guys had done just was exhilarating. And then I think we had one on the senior college level that was very interesting. We had many of them, and I don't want to say that this is the greatest that ever happened, but it's kind of unique. A friend of mine named Lou Henson was coaching New Mexico State. And New Mexico State was ranked in the top 10 in the NCAA Division I. And he calls me and said, I need a game. And I said, you got the wrong number. and we were friends, and he said, no, come on, I'll pay you. And game guarantees are part of the way we help make our budget in those days. So we came to an agreement, and we go out to play New Mexico State. And the week that we go to play, their picture's on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So I say, aha. So I get a bunch of Sports Illustrated, and I make sure every player has one. and it's psychobabble, but it works sometimes. And then when the game was getting ready to start, they had us come out while the gym is dark and stand by the bench. And then when their guys come out, they got like a light show and all this stuff. And I don't know if it was trying to harass us or not, but anyway, our guys played so hard and played so well, we beat them.
Wow.
And I can still remember when it was over, and this is what I loved about the old coaches, and I think that coaches nowadays still do this. Lou came over to our dressing room and said, "Can I go in and talk to your players?" I said, "Sure." He goes in and he compliments them, and he says, "It wasn't a fluke. You beat us." And he said, "I just want to congratulate you."
Wow.
And I thought what he said to him was more important than anything I could have said to him. But that was one of the highlights of the thing. And we had a lot of great games in the conference, and used to have spectacular games with Southwest Texas State. You know, as we evolved, we got into the Lone Star Conference in about 68 or 69, somewhere there. I can't remember exactly. And they had teams in there that had national reputations. And so, like Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin, Southwest Texas, of course, A&I in football, and Abilene Christian was in there. But anyway, we had a bunch of great thrillers with all of those guys, and that was a thrill to us because sometimes you'd be beating a team that was so highly ranked that just the joy of pulling an upset. And I think that's the reason Tom would really like athletics, is the chance of an upset. And so we were proud of our guys for accomplishing things like that.
Oh, and is that from where you played New Mexico State?
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah, we won by 6. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I always liked that. But flukes happen. That's probably what it was. Then what do y'all call this? Man cave now? I just called it a place that...
It's a workshop.
Well, it's a place I can get back here and kind of do whatever I want to. But now I want to show you. The University of Texas was the biggest school in the state at that time. Okay, that's the guy I'm talking about that was my coach. That's Jack Gray. Okay, this is the trainer. He's Linden. That's the team manager. He didn't even have an assistant coach. And he was
school in Texas. Coach.
And he was assistant football coach until the middle of October. And these guys were interested. He wound up being the starting first baseman for the Philadelphia Athletics. This guy was a dentist. This guy was an all-pro NBA 7 or 8 times. That's Slater Martin. And this guy was a tackle off the football team. He played in the NFL. I mean, interesting guys. You don't see how fast I'm moving there, do you? That picture moving too fast for you? I mean, I'm on a roll there, babe.
Well, and then outside of athletics, you've been either officially or unofficially affiliated with ASU for probably 60-something years now. Do you have a favorite memory that may or may not be a particular game, but just as far as your partnership and association with ASU?
Not a particular thing. My initial thought about since you just asked the question is, I have an umbrella answer to that. I had the good fortune of being able to speak to most all the service clubs every year, speak at a lot of sports banquets throughout Texas. I got to be the MC for a lot of civic productions and Chamber of Commerce things and all. And to me, it was a joy, but also I like to think that I was representing ASU to some degree in each of those endeavors. And I wanted people to see that those of us at ASU are enthusiastic about what the school is and tell them about the quality of it and let them know that we're just like the rest of them and try to pull them into the ASU family, if you will. Yeah.
Um, Another thing that you were involved in that was affiliated with athletics but not really sports was helping to start the Ram Club, the kind of the fundraising arm, so to speak. Um, when y'all got together and did that, what was it that made that so important and that made y'all think that was a good idea?
Okay, I don't want to sound like a guy that's crying about anything, but athletic budgets, particularly in the old days, were very tight and very lean. And we knew that we needed help for some of the things that the school couldn't provide for us. And so Max Bumgarner and I were just brainstorming one day, and the thought came up, let's start a Ram Club. And we started on a very low key. Uh, we called people who in the community had some identity and told them what our thoughts were, process and all, and what we wanted to do with it. And it wasn't to try to con them out of money or anything. We wanted them to be able to give money because they wanted to, but we also wanted them to know that there was a program that was being offered to them to where they could feel like they were part of our team. And that had to do with our meetings and our trips and things like that. And it turned out to be a really good thing. And we enjoyed that because we got to know a whole lot of more people in the community, and they got to know us, I guess. I don't know if that's good, but we got to know them.
Well, and apparently it is good because look what it's turned into, and especially the big auction that carries your name that they have every year. I mean, that's one of the prime events of the year.
Well, don't give me credit for that. I'll tell you that I'm so proud of what they do with that auction. And it's a joy for Toddy and I, my wife, to go and just see the people and renew old friendships and all, but watch what happens out there at the auction. That, I tell you, they blew my mind this last August out there and what they did, what they raised and all. It was phenomenal.
And well, you've mentioned Toddy a couple of times and how she was the perfect coach's wife, and I think besides Toddy, there's a lot of people that don't know much about your family, and you know the type of support that that you got from them, not only through the coaching but also through the military and now into retirement. So talk a little bit about and tell us about your family a little bit.
Well, I'm real fortunate. Toddy and I met on a blind date, and they were introduced by a high school teammate of mine and his wife, who happened to be teaching school at Austin High School when we met. And I'd come back out of the service, and I was going back to UT to get my undergraduate degree, and the teachers were going to have a picnic out at Zilker Park at Barton Springs there in Austin, and they invited me to come be a blind date. But first they had to set Toddy up, and I never had met her, didn't know her or anything. And when I met her, wow, I just, oh, golly bum. Well, anyway, we got to had the joy and the opportunity and the fun of courting for a year, and then got married a year later. And we had 3 children. And like the kid said recently, does it scare you, Dad, that all 3 of us can order off the senior citizen menu? And I thought, wow, that's kind of bad. But no, we have 2 daughters and a son, and they all have married and had families, and raised great grandkids, and grandkids have married and they've had kids. And so I guess we all going to get on a bus. If we took all of them with their mates, it'd be like 30 or 31 people that we'd have, and they're fun. Our extended family is fun, and we like it, and we're proud of them, and they've been an enrichment to Toddy and I because they stay in contact with us and they come when they can, and it's always a fun time.
Well, and you've also a couple of times mentioned your military service. Um, World War II, and then later you had to leave ASU for a little while during Vietnam. Tell us a little bit about your military service.
Well, it was kind of odd. I think that I'd be remiss if I didn't say that on December the 6th, 7th, December the 7th, 1941, changed a lot of people in my age range life. That we didn't know what was going to happen, but I turned 18 in June of 42, and 2 months later I was sworn into the aviation cadet program to be trained as a pilot in the Army Air Corps. Now I'm 18 years old. Did I know what I was doing? Heck no. But I guess the military was desperate. But luck would have it, and I graduated when I was 19 and got to fly some pretty nice airplanes and all, and became a aircraft commander when I was 20. And had a crew, and they gave me a brand new airplane in Georgia and said, take it to a ZAM. And I said, heck yeah, where's the ZAM? Anyway, it's halfway around the world. And so we took our little airplane, and by ourselves, we got it over there and all. And I thought that was interesting because I'm 20 and the co-pilot's 20 and the radio operator's 18, and we got an old man on the team. He's 26, our engineer.
Oh.
But it's nothing that we did. It was an adventure to us. But wars are not the place to go to have the right kind of adventures. But anyway, I wanted to stay in the reserves because I really loved flying, and I had so many wonderful adventures in World War II in a lot of exotic places. So I thought, I'm going to keep this thing going. Well, what happened? In January of 1968, on a Thursday night, about 10:30, 11 at night, the phone rang. And the phone was on my side of the bed, and I pick it up, and the guy said, is this Major Field, George? And I said, who is this? He said, well, this Master Sergeant so-and-so says you've been recalled to active duty. I said, what? Come on, I thought it was some of my buddies playing tricks on me. Well, the catch was that I had to report the next day. And this is in the middle of basketball season. I don't have a assistant coach or anything, and I'm teaching classes. I'm teaching 6 hours of academic classes, and I'm the athletic director. And when I was supposed to speak at the Rotary Club at that noon on Friday. But anyway, that's just sidelights. Well, my wife, I doubt that she went back to sleep that night. But anyway, there was a new experience. Well, we were lucky that Alex DeQueer, who had played for us in 63, 64, and 66, 67, right in that range there, was coaching over at Glenn Junior High, and by quick arrangements made before I had to get to San Antonio by midnight, he agreed to come do it, and thank goodness he did. And incidentally, he's the only undefeated college coach I know. He won every game that he coached the rest of that year. But anyway, kind of an odd wrinkle in all of this. We're playing Trinity University on that Friday night. So I take the whole team with me to go.
San Antonio.
And we play the game. And Alex brings them back home. And I think our guys won. It's the best I remember. And then we have orientation with the military on Saturday. And Sunday I conned my boss and let me come home because I said I need to tie some more ends loose and everything. And I had an ulterior motive. We got a game at home on Monday. So he says, he made a deal. He was a dear friend. He said, I'll call you when you're shipping out. And I'll call you. You stay there. So it's just before the half, and taps on my shoulder, and the guy says, Coach, you got a phone call. And I said, take a number. He said, they said you'd say that. He said, this is the Air Force. Said, you better get up and take his call. So I called timeout and tell the team that if I'm not back real quick, call another timeout. Keep calling timeouts. So I go take the phone call, and the guy on the other end is a scheduling officer. He says, "You get down here as quick as you can. You're leaving for Vietnam at 6:30 in the morning."
Wow.
So anyway, but hey, this is not something that you cry over or get negatively emotional about. If you put yourself in a position where that is a possibility and it happens, you better not cry about it. That'd be a hypocrite. Did I want to go? No, I didn't want to go. I had my hands full. And but anyway, so Tuesday I was on my way to Vietnam, but and we were gone a year and a half, and from time to time I'd get to come home for 72 hours, and they were kind of busy because I'd try to run out to San Angelo College, which it was
Right.
part of that time, and then the other part of the time it was Angelo State University, and but anyway, it all worked out, and I got out on June the 1st, 1969, and so it was a absent time from what I was loving to do and all, but also I was loving what I was doing, with the exception of there being a war. Nobody loves those. Nobody wins them, but I came home both times, so I can't complain. But it was another era of a lot of adventure, but that's a different arena.
Yeah, for sure. Well, sure, you're going through and you're coaching, and you've obviously had some success, and become the athletic director, and the teams that you're over continue to have some success. But did you ever think that you would earn the type of, it seems that, like, universal admiration that people seem to have for you these days?
No, that's mind-boggling to me. That was never any niche of my thinking or anything. I just loved what I was doing, and I had such great support. And I don't remember who said it, but there's no such thing as a self-made man, and that's totally true. So many people have helped me for so long do so many things that I'm indebted to a multitude of people for any success that might be allocated to me. I'm just thankful that I was the type person that health-wise stayed with me, and I loved what I was doing, and people have treated me so nice. And I'm thankful to them. They're more responsible for me than I am for me, in my opinion.
Well, you've also, obviously through being a coach and an athletic director and a faculty member and a community member and all these organizations and clubs that you've gone and spoken to, you've had influence over, you've influenced a lot of folks over the years. Who influenced you? Who have been some of the major influences in your life?
I think it's a combination of people. I grew up in East Austin and went to a little elementary school about 6 blocks from home. And I can still remember things that the teachers tried to teach us then: discipline, respect, courtesy, responsibility, try to do your best. When I went to junior high, I had a junior high coach that was a dominating figure, and he had the players' hearts and minds and development primary in his coaching. It wasn't about him, it was about the guys. And so I learned it from them, and the same thing happened in high school, but my college coach made a dynamic impression on me. He was about 8 years older than I was. He was the first All-American in basketball at the University of Texas, and he was also an all-conference football player. But he was young and dynamic and extremely disciplined, and he taught us responsibility and being responsible for yourself. A lot of people don't want to accept responsibility, but once you learn that you're responsible for your actions and for your thoughts and your development primarily, more so than anybody else, then it becomes a gift. because you look forward to it. Yeah, I mean, you can do it. I think he taught us a lot of that. And he's the guy that's responsible for me being out here. And I'm so thankful because when I retired, he came out and spoke at the retirement thing. And that was something unbelievable to me because this is a man that's way up here on the pedestal to me. And at that time, he was president of a pipeline oil company, so he had gone on to
Done all right for himself.
Yeah, but anyway, they had a lot of influence on me. My wife had a ton of influence on me. She is, I mentioned earlier that she's a perfect coach's wife. And here's what I mean. She would correct me when she thought I did something wrong that she witnessed at a ball game. Maybe it was emotion or something I might have body language that said wrong, or maybe something I said to the officials or something. And she did it in a caring, loving, instructive, helpful way. She taught our kids that their dad's going to be gone a lot, but let's get it when he comes home. Let's all be a family and keep things tied up and all. And she did all of that. And she was so wonderful. Like we didn't have a lot of things they have now, and I'm not envious. I'm thankful that they have it now. But like we didn't have health insurance for the athletes. We didn't have team doctors and all that stuff. We had volunteers who would help us. And if a kid, like, they'd get their tonsils taken out or they'd get a knee hurt or something, who was the nurse? My wife, and she'd bring them home with us. And we're so fortunate we got a guest room right out there. And so she could put them out there and help them and all. And I love it that she did that. She did that from her heart and her gift to it, not because she felt obligated to do it. And it's real interesting. Some of the players, a whole lot of them, call me from time to time. I'm talking about every week I get calls. And some of them, if I answer the phone, they say, "Hi, Coach, you okay? I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to Mom." And that tells me how important she was to it. So she influenced it a lot. And I think I was influenced by players. And you say, what does that mean? I'm a big believer in individual differences. I love that we're created individually different. And I love that players that can have gifts that I can share that I don't have, or they can call my attention to something that I'm overlooking that they observe, knowing that they can do that in the right frame of mind and we can discuss it. And I learned a lot from them. And I think that if I have any gift, a big part of it would be I'm a people watcher. And I don't mean I stare at people or anything. I'm a magnet for watching how people react and look and how they control their emotions and what they say and try to interpret things like that. And I think I've been enriched by all of that. I wish I could remember all of it.
Well, how cool is it to have a street named after you? Not many of the rest of us will ever find that out.
When I first heard that, I told Dr. May, y'all have really lowered your standards. It's unbelievable. Of course, when I found out that it really was going to be so, and I told our family, the kids just said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, really." But I don't know. It's to me. I hope I'm a representative of all the people that I got to be associated with through Angelo State University, this community that had a positiveness to it. I don't know if there's an influence of how they live their lives or influence in the academic side or coaching or what have you. But if they just feel good when they see that name up there, it's not me. I mean, I couldn't buy the signs and put them up there by any legitimacy. And it's such an honor that I had to laugh at one of the players said after the street signs had gone up, said, "Coach, if we'd have known that, we'd have known where to dump our trash before we went to the door." But I said, "Oh, come on." But anyway, no, it's an honor, and I really do appreciate it. I'm not making light of it. It touches me, and it doesn't touch me not in a braggadocious way. It touches me in an internal emotional way, and I'm thankful for that.
Okay, and my last question is, long, obviously fulfilling life that you've had. What has been your kind of guiding philosophy that you've tried to live by?
Many years ago, our youngest daughter, while she was in junior high, gave me a plaque. Not a plaque, it's something, it was a paper poster that she put on a piece of plywood. And it was by, oh golly, don't let me forget the lady's name. The lady that was blind and couldn't speak. That was,
Anne Frank?
No,
Or Helen Keller.
Helen Keller. Helen Keller, and there's a quote from her: "Life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing. Life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing." And how I use that, and my philosophy is this: when you stop and think about it, Tom, humanistically, probably the only thing in the human creation that we have total control over is our attitude. Don't care what the situation is, whether it's wartime or it's emotional driving a car, if it's emotion from a romantic situation, if it's failure from losing a ball game, if it has something to do with financial problems, whatever it is, your mind attitude helps you to go through that and control it. And so I've always been a person that had what I thought, without even thinking about it, a positive attitude. And I think it's, I don't know, maybe I was born that way. I mean, but it seems natural to me that if you can control it, why don't you use it? It's a gift that each of us have. And too many people, I think, inadvertently beat themselves up with bad attitudes or lost hope, or they can't do this, or just think of the accomplishments that mankind has made, and a lot of it is because people had an attitude. It was invisible till they developed it. Right. And then they did it by attitude. They did it by positive thinking, and they did it by, and I think that Christian beliefs help the foundation of our lives too. It gives us a rudder to this ship of life that we walk through. And life is like a game. To me, you're either in the game or you're on the sidelines. And somebody made a comment one time, said there's three types of people. There's the type of people that make things happen. There's the type of people that watch things happen. And there's the type of people that wonder what happened. And I want to be in that first one. I'm not always there, but I want to be.